Good evening, everybody. This feels like my old days in TV broadcast land. I had hair back then. It was a long time ago. So, welcome. Thank you for coming out on this cold evening where we always get such a wonderful turnout in West Hartford. So we're so fortunate to serve this community. For those of you who are new, or maybe you've come to one of these last year and you want a little refresher, I'll just kind of lay out what the plan is. First and foremost, the evening is about you, and it's about us hearing what's on your mind and your priorities. We're happy to answer questions. We'll probably try to avoid getting in a lengthy debate. We could always with somebody because we could always have offline, that kind of conversation. We want to make sure that everybody gets an opportunity to really have their voices heard. So. Why don't I do this? I want to introduce at least one person here, and if you have any staff members who you want to give a shout out to. Okay, and then what I thought we would do is we'll each introduce ourselves. We could tell you what committees we're on and maybe one or two of our priorities this session. We have a lot, I know, but we could each tick off something that's really, top on our agenda list. And then we'll open it up to you all, and we'll go till 7:30. This is not a one-off, as you know. All of us are really accessible to you. We put our cell phone numbers out there, our email, and so this could be in some cases the beginning of a conversation. I do want to give a shout out to Daniela. Daniela Luna is over there. Daniela, thank you for all that you do. So she works with me at the Capitol, with all of us at the Capitol. She's my legislative aide, and so some of you may have had contact with her. And there's sign-up sheets over there as well, I think information that all of us have. And also, there's a really cool document that's provided by Office of Legislative Research. And some of you have it, I see, yeah. And so it says Major Issues 2026. This is put together by a nonpartisan office. So you can rely on this information. It's pretty right down the middle, but it gives you an idea of some of the big topics that we're going to be addressing. This legislative session started yesterday. It ends the first Wednesday of May, so it's what we call our short legislative session. As some of you may know, we craft a 2-year budget in the state, right? So the long year, which is last year, which is the odd numbered years, we start in January and go all the way to June, and we craft a 2-year budget. And so then the off years, we start in February, we end in May, and then we have the political conventions that you've already heard a lot about, and then people run for re-election or don't sometimes. And we'll talk more about that in a minute. So anyways, that's the cycle. It is more difficult for individual legislators to introduce bills in the short session because the committees basically, they're the ones who are raising the bills. So part of the reason I mention that is just that if you have an idea and say, I want you to raise a bill on, introduce a bill on whatever the topic is, it's really up to the chairs of the committee, and it's up to us to try to convince the chairs to do that. That's what happens in a short legislative session. So anyway, we'll get to it, so then we can make sure that we hear from you. My name's Derek Slapp, state senator, represent 4 towns, West Hartford, Farmington, Burlington, and Bloomfield. All of West Hartford, most of Farmington, all of Burlington, and then just a little sliver of Bloomfield. And I'm on, I think, 6 committees. Vice Chair of Public Safety. I'm Chair of the Higher Education and Employment Advancement Committee, so a lot of my time and effort is focused on higher education. That happens with all of us based on our committee assignments. And I'll just touch on kind of 2 overall priorities for me. That's not to mention there aren't others. And one is, I think that's true for all of us, is affordability, right? That's like the big buzzword you're going to hear a lot about. And we all have different ideas, I think, in terms of what that means and how we can make Connecticut more affordable for all of you. So that's a big thing, and I'm happy to talk more about that. And the other thing that we're going to be doing in the Higher Education Committee, and there's different ways that I think all of us will do this, is we're going to really try to help protect Connecticut residents from the chaos coming out of Washington. And one very specific example is that the H.R. 1, I hate to call it the big beautiful bill, but I'll say that with irony and sarcasm in my voice. That bill eliminated the grad student loan plus program in this federally. So what that means for Connecticut is that $90 million that goes to graduate students, who are people who are training to be nurses and our teachers, vanishes July 1 if we do nothing. So we're working with the state to try to prop up a new program that would help aspiring grad students and help aspiring teachers and nurses so they can have low interest loans and not get fleeced out on the open market, save them thousands of dollars a month and help solve our teacher shortage and our nursing shortage. So that's kind of an example, affordability and protecting Connecticut residents against the chaos from Washington. Those two kind of big buckets are things you're going to hear a lot about, and certainly my priority. So I'm going to stop talking and hand it off. Why don't we'll start with Representative Sanchez, and we'll go this way. Is that good? Sure. Okay, and then Kate is going to facilitate questions when we get to that part as well. But go ahead.
Okay, good evening, everyone. Thank you for coming here and joining us. It's a pleasure to be here again. My name, as Senator Slapp mentioned, is James Sanchez, but you can call me Jimmy. Most people do. I am a state representative of the 6th District, which is Hartford, and a portion of Elmwood, West Hartford. And I sit on the Appropriations Committee. I'm also the vice chair of the Energy and Technology Committee, and I'm trying my best. And also on the Executive and Legislative Nominations Committee. And the key word is affordability. And what is going on with the energy costs, whether it's natural gas, oil, but especially electricity. So I'd like to delve into that little later on. I'm not going to take all the time, so I'm going to pass the mic on to Kate.
Okay. Thank you, Jimmy. Hi, everyone. State Representative Kate Farrar. Great to see everyone. I represent the 20th District, which is primarily in West Hartford, including Elmwood, and then I represent a portion of Newington, the western side of Newington. And again, grateful to be here with everyone. And as a team, because we really do work as a team for West Hartford, you know, I know in regards to the affordability piece, a big priority for all of us will be bringing more dollars to West Hartford in order to really stabilize not just the budget of West Hartford, but stabilize in many ways the property tax burden that, you know, you all feel, we all feel, and that's something that I know for many of us in the legislature, we're trying to make sure that more dollars come back to towns, including ours in West Hartford, to really support the town, especially around education, and that's primarily the main drivers here in our town and every other town for their budgets. Also on the affordability area, I spoke to many of you probably last year about a lot of work that we've been doing to really seek to bring down childcare costs for our families here in the state of Connecticut. You know, 40% of our families across the state and 26% of families here in West Hartford just simply cannot make ends meet given the costs and their wages. And so we have to address that in a multitude of ways. And one of the greatest costs for families is childcare. And one of the big efforts that we took on, and we should be really proud of as a state last year, is we established a historic early childhood education endowment in which we deposited $300 million so that we can start to make a bigger investment in childcare to bring down costs for families and also raise wages for educators. Because one of the issues is we actually don't have enough early childhood educators because they don't get paid in the same way that our K-12 educators do. So for me personally, I will be fighting to make sure that we continue to make a deposit into this endowment, and that's to ensure that starting in 2027, again, we can start to bring down these costs for families and pay educators more. And then secondly, on the affordability side, because I serve on the Finance Committee, one of the ways that I've been working for several years is just how do we make sure that we are fixing what is our upside down tax system. And on this note around families, and so many families families that are struggling, I've been working for many years now to create what would be a permanent child tax credit here in the state of Connecticut. This proposal, similar to last year, would mean that families could get $600 per child, up to 3 children, for a single filer up to $100,000, or a joint filer up to $200,000. And we know that this doesn't just put hands in the money of families so they can buy food or pay their mortgage or rent or buy clothes for their children, but we know based on what's happened at the federal level during COVID is, this fundamentally, kind of can cut child poverty significantly, and it boosts our local economies. So that is something I'll be working on this year as well. And then finally, to Derek's point around just protecting Connecticut residents, we've done a lot in the last few years here in Connecticut to make sure that we are putting protections in our state laws in regards to how ICE can behave in our state. And I think there's a lot of conversations happening in the legislature right now if there are other things that we should be looking at. But that is certainly front of mind, I know, for many of us. And just looking forward to all of your questions. And on that note, I want to shout out to Daniela. Where's Daniela? Is she in here? Or is she coming back? Daniela's going to have, there she is. She has a clipboard. You have the clipboard? So since we're getting started, she's going to start to send the clipboard around. And if you have a question in mind, just put your name down on the clipboard now, and then when we get to the question time period, we'll call you up one by one. And that's because we are on our West Hartford Community Interactive, thank you, and we want to make sure everyone's questions can be fully heard. And after we get through the list of questions, if you then have a question, of course, you're more than welcome to come up. So hope that makes that clear, and I'll pass it over to Rep. Exum.
Thank you so much, and good evening. It's really wonderful to see everyone this evening. I always love when we have our forums because I know people in West Hartford show up all the time, and it's a wonderful thing. So I am Representative Tammy Exum. I represent a portion of West Hartford and Avon, and I serve on the Appropriations Committee. I'm the Vice Chair of Appropriations, and I also serve on the subcommittee for education within Appropriations, and we look very closely at the budget on that piece, on that end. And another part of the way it works for me is I kind of sit in on all of the subcommittees within appropriations and just listen in and kind of learn from transportation to energy. We kind of split it with myself and another vice chair so that we kind of are familiar with the different areas of what's taking place. And I also am on a committee that I kind of helped form. It's called the Transforming Children's Behavioral Health Policy and Planning Committee, that came out of legislation that was established in 2022, which was at the time our big priority around children's behavioral health. And I call it TCB, for Taking Care of Business Committee. And we meet year round, and we have a tri-chair structure with a Senate chair as well as an OPM chair. And so I sit on that as well. And really, there's a couple things that I'm focusing on this time around, just to kind of add on. Looking at education, we're looking at school meals and recognizing, when you talk about school meals and whether or not children are able to eat, I think it is something that fundamentally should be a part of what's covered in the day of a child going to school. And during COVID, we saw that, but we were going back to, our original structure. And it is a priority to go back and have free breakfast. And it's interesting when I think, and I was a teacher a very, 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 very long time ago. I was a second grade school teacher in North Carolina, my first career. And I know that for books we didn't charge, kids extra. We didn't charge them for supplies. And it's amazing that food would be something that if a child doesn't have, that it can become a burden. It can become money that the family owes. So we're looking at having free breakfasts, and then students who are currently on reduced lunch, we're hoping that we'll be able to have free lunch for those students. So that is one of the priorities for sure in education. And then I will continue to focus on the children's behavioral health piece. We're trying to make sure we have urgent crisis centers. We have 3. We're supposed to have 4. Yale also has funding, and they haven't stood up their urgent crisis center yet. That is doing remarkable work. We're really seeing a reduction in children going to the emergency room, what they're able to accomplish in a pretty short period of time, a full comprehensive getting the child stabilized, giving the family a plan, and getting them out the door. We are seeing a tremendous impact that these centers are having, but we're constantly working on funding around that. So I want to be sure that funding is stabilized, and honestly, we really need to have another center or 2, one for more rural areas and then one closer to the Stamford area. So I would really want to push for that as well. A personal project of mine is around heart health. Yesterday was our first day of session, and I was honored. I spoke with the speaker, and I said, could we ask for everyone to wear red for American Heart Health Month? And it was a beautiful view when I looked at pictures from the legislature yesterday from the House. And I am really focused on coronary calcium scans. And last year, as a legislature, we were able to pass within a bill that we would have coronary calcium scans covered for state health plans. Even though we couldn't cover them for everyone, I think it's really important to advocate for it because this is a life-saving scan that oftentimes people don't know about. I bring it up because I learned about it when my husband's autopsy results were given to me. And this scan could have saved his life. And it's 3 to 5 minutes, it's painless, it's quick and easy, but often doctors don't talk about it. So it's a part of my personal mission to make sure people are aware. And I would love to get coverage, and I personally want to work on ways to help people get coverage. And I bring up a personal passion because I have decided, most of you have probably heard, that I am not going to seek reelection. So this is my final term here, session here, and I know I have 61 more days because the speaker told us yesterday how many we have, and it is a very bittersweet to be leaving. As you can see, this is a fantastic delegation. I have to tell you, I know I'm biased, but I'm also right. We have an unusually strong and incredible legislation, and I think a delegation, and I think we are so fortunate as a community to be served by Jillian and by Derek and by Kate and by Jimmy and by Bobby. And I think we're really, really lucky in West Hartford for the kind of representation we have. And so I look forward. I don't know if I'll be doing any more of these or not, but I look forward to our discussion tonight. But I kind of wanted to tell you a bit of my personal project as well as I walk away.
We're lucky to have you too, Tammy. I'm Jillian Gilchrist, State Representative in the 18th District, which is a portion of West Hartford, and I am the co-chair of the Human Services Committee, and then I serve on the Public Health Committees, Public Health Committee, Appropriations Committee, and Judiciary Committee. Sticking with the affordability theme, in the Human Services Committee, am looking at Medicaid rates again. For those who have been here before, this is a repeat topic, so Medicaid rates and nonprofit provider rates. So there's overlap there. When we think about Medicaid, your mind might go straight to kind of traditional healthcare, which, yes, it does cover. Nearly 1 million people receive their health care in the state of Connecticut through our state's Medicaid program, and folks can receive services for those with intellectual and developmental disabilities. This is our seniors. Again, this is dental. This is mental health. This is substance abuse. And then in the nonprofit sphere, those providers offer an array of services, again, to those same populations I brought up, also to the homeless population, to those with mental health needs. And so with affordability, by Connecticut not increasing our Medicaid rates or providing nonprofit providers with the higher wages that they need, we're not paying people a living wage. And so folks cannot afford to live and work in the state of Connecticut. And so trying to kind of shift that lens to more focus on this as a vital workforce in our state, which then impacts people being able to access the care that they need. Talking about defense work. Again, in the Human Services Committee, going to be looking at how we ensure that the rollout of HR 1, I won't say what it's called, is done as harmless as possible. I don't support the policy of work requirements, but work requirements are happening. And so for both, previously in the state of Connecticut, we have had work requirements for our SNAP program, our Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, but the federal changes have made it where we used to be able to have certain carve-outs for folks who couldn't access jobs. Those have all been taken away, and certain populations also have been removed. So trying to, again, figure out how we can implement those new work requirements in the most harmless way as possible. We have never had work requirements for our Medicaid program, and those will be coming into effect in 2027. And so we want to ensure that that is done in a way where people don't lose their services. Also, in the past, you got recertified for both Medicaid and SNAP annually. The federal government has changed that to every 6 months. And so that's going to take a lot of administrative work that we want to ensure we can put in place. And then women's health and safety is a passion of mine, and so going to be doing some policies ideally in the realms of reproductive health care, endometriosis, and gender-based violence. I, too, you might have heard, am running for a different office, and so I am not running for my state representative seat again. It has been a privilege and an honor to serve this community, and I do want you to know, though, fully engaged as state representative through our legislative session, actually through next December, because you're a state rep. So I am your representative, and that's the role, and so I'm here for you. I do have to leave at 6:40. Email is the best way to reach me. Please feel free, if I don't get to connect with you tonight, to reach out to me. Want to definitely be your voice at the legislature. Thank you.
Thank you, Jillian. So on that note, we, as promised, are going to move right to questions. And to get us going, again, we have a sign-up list, but what we're going to do is we're going to go through who's on the sign-up list. We're going to ask you to come up. And then after we get through the sign-up list, if anyone else has questions, we'll just go through them one by one appropriately. So I want to be mindful. I know, oh, great, thank you. I want to be mindful that Marianne is up first, but I know we're trying to use the microphone, and I don't know if are we able to move the microphone over? How do we do it before? Oh, do you want to go up for her? Okay, great.
Up here, please.
I apologize if you guys can't hear me. I'm going to set this right here this way. This one goes farther.
Well, she can, if she's doing it, she can use the,
Okay.
yeah, you can use that mic.
Oh, I see. I always freeze up, so. It's on? All right. My name is Elena Williams. I'm speaking for Mary Ann Langton tonight. Good evening, and thank you for the opportunity to speak and to share my thoughts. I would really like to urge the Public Health Committee, and I know some of you are on it, to raise the bill about health care for people with disabilities. We have made strides with raising this issue. However, it is necessary to make an amendment to Public Act 24-113 that would provide enforcement provisions by the Department of Public Health this year that would address the ongoing situation that people with disabilities are not receiving equitable health care in our state. This is due to the many physical barriers, such as not having accessible medical equipment, including mechanical lifts. And this is frustrating and challenging. As a woman with a physical disability, it is my civil right to be able to have access to whatever equipment I need, be it an accessible scale or lift that allows me to transfer safely to a stretcher. I remember being so sick with shingles on my stomach and not being able to get on the examination table. This prevented me from getting an acceptable and thorough exam. In addition, I have no idea how much I weigh. I find this very scary because what if I need emergency surgery? For me to safely obtain the proper amount of anesthesia, I need to know how much I weigh, and at the moment we have no idea if medical facilities are complying with Public Act 24-113. How would you like to be in this situation? Thank you for listening to me, and please raise this issue in your Public Health Committee. Thank you. Sincerely, Mary Ann Langton. Thank you.
I'll jump in and say, thank you, thank you. We will work on that. I had the opportunity this past summer to go on a visit to a health facility in Massachusetts, and they had all scales that were wheelchair accessible. And there was this light bulb moment of those of us not in wheelchairs can easily step on that scale. So why wouldn't a healthcare facility transition to ensure that more people can have access? So.
Yeah, I'll just add, Mary Ann, that you know Mike D'Amico, who is a terrific champion. He's the state rep in Farmington. He's on public health. Jillian, you're on public health. Yeah, Jillian's on public health. I don't know if you are. I'm on public health, and I know that we're all going to vote for you, and for no question. And you're such a champion. You raised this issue, and you keep at it, and I so respect your just your passion for this. And so we got your back.
Thank you, Mary Ann, for joining us. Next, we have Mitchell. Welcome, Mitchell. Come on down. It's just like The Price is Right. No prizes. We should have prizes next time.
Spin the wheel.
Are you going to line it up? Welcome, Mitchell.
Hello. So my name is Mitchell Namius, and first and foremost, I am a pharmacist, and I'm extremely happy that pharmacist compensation has been identified as a legislative priority. Pharmacists are one of the most easily accessible healthcare professionals and often a go-to source for patients. So as an advocate for the profession, I was thrilled with the practice expansion laws in the previous session. However, with no additional compensation authorized, we would essentially take a pay cut if we were to provide those additional services for free. And who can afford that in this economy? So if any of you want to talk about that, I am available. However, that is not my question. My question pertains to public health. Recently, the Commissioner of Public Health announced that due to a loss in grant funding, up to 45 FTEs, or full-time equivalents for employees, may be laid off. Public health often goes unrecognized, but interacts with all aspects of life. Childcare immunizations, nursing home inspections, disabilities, elderly fall risk, chronic disease prevention like heart health and diabetes. Public health infrastructure is not a switch that can just be flicked on or off, or it could be restored overnight. The damage would take decades to undo. So in a world where public health has been under attack for the last 6 years, what is our delegation doing to protect public health and the citizens of Connecticut?
Thank you. Thank you for bringing it up. We actually had a press conference, I think Derek and I were both at it, on Monday, in which someone at DPH brought this up, which was very helpful because these are the types of things we want to know about. The effects of these federal attacks, including federal cuts on the state, have great ripple effects, as you said. And to me, I would say why it's so important to bring this forward to us is just yesterday for the Senate and today for the House, you know, we continued this structure of having what is this emergency fund in which we're trying to use dollars to address many of these cuts. You know, we set up that fund initially in November, have been getting money out the door to address cuts to food assistance and health insurance. And that's why knowing about this is so helpful, because it helps us make the case that some of those dollars should be used to shore up some of this staffing that, as you said, would have great ripple effects. So that's how I'm thinking about it, is how can we use some of the emergency fund dollars, but I welcome my colleagues to share any ideas. Yeah.
And thank you. And I did talk to Representative Wood, and there is every intention of introducing a bill in the Insurance Committee to address pharmacist pay for those services. Ooh. Yeah. I think also more like broadly, so the staff, yes, and then there's a variety of topics being discussed in the Public Health Committee on vaccines, like certain things that are now being taken away, eliminated at the federal level with regards to public health. How can we protect that here in Connecticut? And so, as you heard, our theme of responding to, all of our colleagues are looking at that and trying to see where we can make the most positive impact to protect things.
And Russell, let me just add a few things real quick. I mean, Jillian mentioned Medicaid rates. It's a huge issue, not only for affordability, but for access. As you know, there's essentially no pediatricians in the city of Hartford because there's, the rates are so low. So that's a big one, just in terms of, you're talking about public health. The governor mentioned in his speech about a public option, and boy, it's long past time, I think, for small businesses and nonprofits that are struggling with double-digit annual rate increases for health insurance. It's not sustainable. Private equity hospitals is another big issue that's come up that hopefully we're going to tackle as well. And then the last thing, in terms of just the chaos from Washington coming down here, I agree with Kate. Certainly, we should be able to use some of those funds, right, to help with this. But we're also going to see, and this is, Jillian's been a great leader on this as well as the rest of the delegation, but we're going to see thousands of children kicked off health insurance if we don't do something about that because of the federal changes. So there's lots of issues, but I hear you. And I think we're making progress, but I appreciate you sharing your concerns.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mitchell. Please follow up too. Yeah. Next we have Matt Mascardi. Welcome, Matt. Nice to see you again. Yes.
Hi, everyone. I have 3 questions and/or suggestions. I'm Matt Mascardi. I live on Waterside Lane. I'm a West Hartford resident, just as an FYI. The first one, talking about affordability. The question is, I wonder what the biggest levers are for affordability in the state, because, there's a piecemeal approach that emerges when you deal with every little item that is unaffordable, right? But affordability is largely driven by 2 macro factors: are greedflation and tariffs right now, right? It's the administration and greedflation. The way to sort of tackle some of the bigger things, Eversource has a monopoly in the state, right? And we went to go get solar panels. We had to wait 3 months for them to approve us getting solar panels, and then they tell us what the rate is. We don't get that energy necessarily. They tell us what they're going to give us for that energy. Things like that actually are massive barriers to affordability, because more people would have solar panels if Eversource didn't have the ability to do that, but they're a monopoly. Voting proxies, I brought this up last time in the legislative session. As the state is a shareholder in all of these companies. Last year, first quarter of last year, 93.8% voted with management. Second quarter, 99% with management. Third, 97.5%, and fourth, 99.1%. That's not exactly holding management to account for raising the prices of Connecticut residents. I know there are other mechanisms than just voting. I know engagement. In fact, I know the people on the team, and they're smart people, and they're doing their most they can do. It's like a 2-person team. You can't expect a lot out of a 2-person team and 80,000 securities, but that's a lever, right? And there's not a lot of sort of discussion about using those levers. Zoning laws are inherently biased in many ways, and those are levers. Those are big levers. So I'm wondering, question 1 is, has anyone identified the biggest levers to pull on affordability? Question 2, I want to talk about devices in schools, which seems small, but is a massive issue. In fact, all the studies, everyone agrees. The prior administration, Surgeon General agreed, everyone agrees. These things are horrible. Not just kids are addicted to them, adults are addicted to them. And when you throw in AI, and I don't know how many people use AI now just as a search engine. Just, you have a question, you just ask a bot. They're horrible. Every time you say please or thank you to AI, it costs millions of dollars and takes your energy, period. These are things kids want to use, they're using, and they're addicted to. And it's like a massive lever that we can change. In the document you have, Vermont, New York, what were the other states? Rhode Island, they've all bell-to-bell bans. Why is Connecticut not? Why are we lagging our own peers in something like that? So the question is, why are we slow? What is the barrier to us being slow? Why are we allowing our kids to get more exposure to these things? And the third question I want to ask, and I swear I'll be done after this, is really actually just like a high level question. How do we fight back as a state against the fickleness, forget politics, but the fickleness of the administration? Is there a state legal defense fund? As in, can the state be suing the administration to protect itself, right? I have no idea. I didn't read the budget that closely, so I don't know what exists. But I do know that we're clawing back money, we're dipping into reserves to basically make up shortfalls that are at the whim of the administration, including things like the offshore wind farms that we're shutting down, and it's all illegal. And then we're left sort of fighting, rather than sort of waiting to fight in a legislative session, ad hoc, fighting each thing as it comes. Why not sort of shore a fund as a state that allows us to say we're ready for anything? You want to come at our doctors, you want to come at our pharmacists, you want to come at people with disabilities, LGBTQ community, I don't care who you want to come at. This state protects them because we have a fund set aside for our residents to do that. So that's more pie in the sky. Those are my questions and/or thoughts. Thank you.
Oh,
Matt, right?
Yeah, Matt.
Matt, I'm sorry, I have a question for you. When you applied for the solar panels, you're saying you went through Eversource, correct?
You have to, yeah, we had a contractor and they have to get a permit through Eversource.
Okay, now, when you applied, did you go through the public benefit program?
We left it to the
Did they-
contractor.
Okay.
They did all that. So I think, we didn't need any sort of financial assistance for it. It
Right.
was simply a matter of Eversource had to approve connecting to the grid. And right now that connection is at their discretion. We have friends who have been denied it for months, and we had to wait several months. In fact, they came back and denied us the first time. I almost lost my mind because, and the contractor was like, they do this every time. They always deny it first. And then they set the rate after they approve it. Like they have to inspect it, they approve it. That's the process that they go by.
Okay, I appreciate you sharing that. I just, I'd like to get together with you at the end of this so that we can have further discussion. There is something else I'd like to share with everyone, including with you, Matt. When you do pick out a contractor, please make sure that these contractors have been vetted through the state and through Eversource as well, and United Illumination or what have you, because I've received so many complaints about the roof being damaged. And then when they turn around and go after the contractor are not liable to pay and repair that roof for you. Then, when you go after your homeowner's insurance, they'll deny the whole claim, only because they'll put the onus or the blame back on the contractor. Now you're stuck in the middle. So please make sure you do vet the contractors, and there should be a list, a call list already. And I'm not sure what department through the state that will have that list. I'm not sure if anyone else here will have it, but definitely, again, I am the vice chair of Energy and Technology. It is very challenging. There's so much to learn about what's going on here in the state of Connecticut, and this public benefit charge, although in a sense is there to help homeowners, Connecticut residents, in affordability for solars, per se. Whether you can afford buying it yourself or not, they will subsidize it. But the problem is that, most of the folks who are pushing it to keep this public benefit charge are folks that can't afford it and care more about the environment, which I care about the environment as well, but they care more about the environment, that they're not concerned how it's hurting the working family. And that's a big issue. So again, I'd like to get back, afterwards and have a conversation with you, but I'm going to try and see if I can get some information so that I can share it with West Hartford as well as with Hartford. And so that, this way, when you do apply for a solar panel or some other program, you at least have take the right steps to be successful in getting it.
Thanks, Matt, for being here. Happy to follow up with you too on all these things. I would just say I think, might have been question 1 or 2, just about this bigger question, like where do we focus our energy? I'm sure we all have our own perspectives on that. Personally, though, I would just share for me, it's why I'm on the finance committee. It's why I focus so much energy on fixing what I referenced earlier as our upside down tax code. Because when you look at the vast inequality in our state and why it's so unaffordable for the vast majority of residents, it's really because that when you look at who's paying taxes and how much they're paying, when our working and middle class families and individuals are paying 3 to 4 times the effective tax rate of the wealthiest in our state, we have a problem. And so until we actually, do the right thing, not just the right thing by our, families, but the investments that everyone in this state benefits from, and actually, raise the taxes on the wealthiest in our state who can afford it and lower the taxes on the folks who are overburdened with taxes in our state. To me, until we do that, we are just, as you said, taking more of a Band-Aid approach. And that's why personally I focus so much on the tax side of the equation, because to me that actually would make the biggest difference. But I really appreciate your question, because some of what we're trying to do, it's not to say that all the things that we're trying to come at aren't successful, but as you said, there's bigger ticket things that would make a big difference. And I'll let my colleagues speak to, I think, some of your other questions they have thoughts on.
I'll just briefly address a topic that I am very passionate about, which is the usage of cell phones for young children. And it has become quite problematic. And one of the things that we talk about a lot through the children's behavioral health work is, like, what is the cause of some of the things that we're seeing with these huge spikes of children in distress? Anxiety levels are really high, social skills that we're looking at, levels of depression, and also it's really dangerous. I mean, we're hearing about this Roblox. I have a forum in Avon, but it was just on the news. 2 little girls were lured through a game by a predator who had was meeting with them, and thankfully the police, they were able to get them. We went to school, most of us, without having cell phones. And when there was something that happened, we were able to be contacted, rescued, whatever. We knew this sound means, how to respond to certain things. I know it gives parents a certain, way of feeling more comfortable, because we are in a different time. We also didn't have guns in schools. There's so many different things that impact it. I understand that. But I think there is room for having a school day that's not interrupted with cell phones, so students can really focus. And if it was something for everyone, it would make it a bit easier. And the governor did mention this yesterday in his speech as well, but I know it's something that's going to be discussed in the Education Committee. I personally am so grateful that when I taught, that was not a thing, but I do know it is an important issue. We hear about it through the anxious generation. We understand that this is problematic, but we'll see where it goes. There also is some appetite for the pouches or things like that, that if they decide to bring them in, kind of check them in early in the day and then check them out. We will see. But I appreciate that comment. I think a lot of parents and teachers in particular are impacted by that behavior and the distraction that comes with it.
Rep. Gibson, do you want to introduce yourself to the wonderful residents? Thank you, Rep. Gibson.
Thank you, Rep. Farrar. Good evening, everyone. I'm State Rep. Bobby Gibson, Deputy Speaker, serving West Hartford and Bloomfield. I serve on the Education Committee, on the Appropriations Committee, as well as the General Law Committee. I'm actually, it's perfect timing, because Matt, I just came from school. I'm a principal at Jamoki Academy. And what we do at our school, I mean, this bill, it's needed. I think after we get off the initial shock, I think it's going to be okay. I do. What we do at our schools is that each teacher has a big lockbox. And at first, I had to give them the tough speech, as far as phones. When you come in, you take your phone, you put it in the box. The teacher has it for the rest of the day. Then you get your phone back at the end of the day. And it's been working pretty well. Some of the kids, even some of our scholars, even just voluntarily give us their phones. Meaning that they may not put it in the box, but they'll give me the phone. Miss Principal Gibson, will you hold my phone? So I think it is definitely needed. Some of the things that when I walked in, I heard you say, and some of my colleagues, Tammy said, Representative Exum said, is something I think is going to be good. I'm sure, I think what's happening is a lot of scholars feel pressure, just like with school uniforms, with some places. The scholars feel pressured, like you got to have a phone, I got to have the newest phone and all that stuff. So I think it relieves them. And it does cut down on a lot of distractions in classroom, as I'm sure you probably mentioned and other people know. So I don't think it's going to be that heavy of a burden. It's just that school systems have to take the fidelity to law and be consistent and make sure that they enforce the rule.
Awesome. So next up, we have Darlene. Welcome, Darlene.
Good evening. My name is Darlene Boray, and thank you for the opportunity to speak. I want to begin by thanking Senator Derek Slapp and all the representatives, Jillian, Tammy, Kate, Jimmy, Bobby, thank you all. We're very lucky here in West Hartford to have a delegate group that listens so much, and I really appreciate it, and you've done a lot for the disability community. And that's why I'm here. My son, Ben, grew up in West Hartford. He went to Whiting Lane, King Philip, Hall, and Conard, long story. He has profound autism, which means he needs significant support and he has limited communication. But with the right supports, he didn't just learn, he taught others. So students who helped Ben in school learned leadership, patience, and empathy. Many of them grew up to become remarkable adults. Ben is now 24 years old. He wasn't just included, he really made the community better. Today, with many supports, he runs a small business called Shreds, where he makes fire starters, and you can buy them at Good Cause Gifts in West Hartford. He has purpose, pride, and a paycheck, which, like most adults, he's very happy to spend. But yet, so many doors are still locked to him. If Ben used a wheelchair and found a building with no ramp, we wouldn't say, well, I guess that building just isn't for you. We'd fix the ramp, but when the barrier is staffing, training, and support, we too often limit opportunity instead of removing the obstacles. All of the programs, day programs we apply to have rejected Ben across the board. I know the town and the state are facing hard budget choices. When he was 10 years old in West Hartford, I swear to God, I sat here thinking, oh my God, when he's an adult, they'll have solved these problems, because it was always, at 10, they were telling us, oh, when he's an adult, if you fall off the cliff, you get no supports. And I'm like, well, that was the old days. I mean, now, of course, when he gets older, now he's 24 and we're here, and it's shocking. I just got this alert in my phone today. So he has severe needs, and this is what it says. It's really, the governor's newly released budget proposes eliminating Community First Choice, a program that allows people with severe disabilities to receive services at home instead of in a nursing home. So they're going to try to eliminate that program. So he'll be at 24 years old in a nursing home? I mean, are we in crazy town? Like, this is insane, right? So I know the town and state are facing hard budget choices, but supporting Ben isn't just compassionate, it's good economics. His life creates jobs. So when you hear it's expensive, this is why. Because that money's going to caregivers, occupational therapists, speech pathologists, psychologists, and behavior specialists. And those professionals spend their paychecks at Hall's Market, Park Lane Pizza, and other local businesses. Supporting Ben doesn't drain the economy. He actually keeps money in it. You might hear how caring for people like Ben is expensive, and I agree. But ignoring people like Ben and not just providing costs associated with bulking up staffing and training, ignoring people like Ben is even more expensive. Crisis care, institutionalization, that's more expensive. So it's nobody wants to go back to the days of institutions, but there's 9 states right now that are pushing for that. We have a huge disability community here in West Hartford you may or may not be aware of. So that would never happen here, because these people will be up day and night fighting this, and many of us are lawyers, and we are absolutely willing to do what it takes. I'm a recovering lawyer. But, I think at this point, Connecticut's better than that. I mean, dropping projects, let's attack the severe. It's just fiscally stupid. It doesn't make any sense. We're providing jobs. That's the expense. Like, that's what they're trying to cut, jobs. And these are jobs that we're looking for, the ones where when your kids get out of college, where are they going to work, AI's getting rid of jobs. These jobs are still going to be around. So anyway, we feel, I'm with the Profound Autism Alliance here in Connecticut. It's a nationwide group also. And I don't really want to promote, the system's broken, let's fix it, let's revamp everything. I don't have time for that. We really need earmarked funding specifically for people with profound autism, targeted training, targeted supports, real inclusion. It's an investment in compassion, but it's a fiscally responsible one because his contributions matter, and when we support him, we really strengthen West Hartford.
Darlene, thanks for what you do. You're such an amazing advocate, obviously not just for Ben, but for the entire disability community and all that you've done. And so I feel like we just are able to pick up the baton and hopefully get it over the finish line. But you're the one that makes it happen, and the businesses, and I mean all the entrepreneurialism that you've created is just incredible. I'll just add that we're going to fight that tooth and nail. I mean that's we're not going to let that happen. It's to your point. It's bad fiscal policy, and it would be immoral to let that happen. So the other thing that just makes me particularly frustrated about it is that what it puts you and all the families through, right? It's like you have enough on your plate, and then you have to be, you're going to live in this limbo, this hell for months, right? Until the session is out. Oh my gosh, what's going on, right? Is the bill, and you're going to have to follow. And it's just like, you should not be put through that. So, we were just on an email. Yeah, I just got an email about 2 hours ago from Tom Fortino. Many of you know Tom, and Jillian was copied on it, and Jillian is chair of, and you were too, Tam. Yeah, head of the Human Services Committee. We all pledged, just immediately to fight this tooth and nail. So, but I'm sorry you have to go through the process. Yeah.
And I just have to say, I know what you mean when you thought when he was 10 years old, that this would be a totally different place by now. And you continue to have to fight that battle over and over again. It was a battle just to get septo. It's a battle, everything is so much work, and it is a big community. We're really lucky to have so many people who are so invested here in West Hartford, but it shouldn't be so hard. I mean, we're absolutely going to fight on that piece. And also, one thing I'll mention, the TCB, the Children's Behavioral Health Committee, we were able to get the ABA services extended to the age of 26, and that's something we worked hard on. So that's something that I was very happy we were able to make happen and have a little bit more equity around that. So, but we'll keep working it, Darlene. Thank you, and you all, many of you have been such fierce advocates, or been there with you. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Darlene. Next up, we have Libby. Thanks, Libby. Hi.
So thank you all for coming tonight. This is a great opportunity for everybody in the room to, get to hear you guys speak. I have two questions. Both have to do with federal overreach. The first one has to do with our election system. Every day in the news, somebody out in Washington is yelling and screaming about how we have non-citizen voters who are wrecking the country. And the SAVE Act is still out there floating around, and they've just introduced another one called the MEGA Act. And that is going to disenfranchise millions and millions of voters. And I would like to know if there are plans, and nobody here is from the GAE, right? To harden up our election systems, because Connecticut already has. I also work as a poll worker. Connecticut has a very, what I have seen to be effective ID system. Okay. In the 4 years that I've been working as a poll worker, I have not seen any abuse of that system. But anyway, requiring people to jump through hoops to get more documentation, pay more fees, that's a poll tax, is going to wreak havoc. And both of these acts are going to address that. So that's the first question. See if anybody has opinions or if there are plans to harden our infrastructure.
I can just comment very generally that I would say I know our GA committee is looking at this. From my understanding, our House Priority Bill 5001 is going to be focused on elections, and I think it's going to include some protective measures for the state. And then secondly on that, I would say in regards to just the state generally, our Secretary of the State has been fighting back, certainly, resisting and refusing to provide voter data. Obviously, we're going to have a bunch of lawsuits related to that and back and forth, but just generally, those are the updates I'm familiar with. But really appreciate you bringing this up because it's something we have to stay attuned to.
And one thing in defense of the Secretary of State's office, and I don't know if it's still true, but when the first expansion of voting rights went through a couple years ago, guys didn't give her any money for education. Okay, so she needs some money to get out there. Okay. The other one also has to do with federal overreach, and that has to do with appropriations, and you're all on appropriations committees. And it goes back to Matt's question about pulling the rug out from under all the states, okay, at a whim. So are there plans to harden that infrastructure? We're a donor state. We give in more than we get out. That you're going to have a taxpayer revolt if we're all lucky.
When you say harden the infrastructure around, yeah, tell us what you're thinking.
Well, I know that there has been a state consortium around public health where the states are teaming up together to create their own bodies of governance, whatever. Is that possible to protect the states from crazy whims coming out of Washington to cut projects and SNAP and FEMA and transportation and everything else that they throw at us? And if it's not, then why not?
Well, I'll just jump in and say that I think there are some opportunities where we can work regionally. We're doing this with, energy, for one that I'm thinking of, healthcare as well. And, I think the governor's trying to do that. That's a strategy. Oftentimes, it's best done through the executive branch working with the other, right? That way. I think there's kind of three, I would put them in like three buckets. So there's the regional stuff, and maybe we can, push back and help protect us. We're a little old Connecticut, but if we, act together collectively with New England, that might help. There's lawsuits. That's been mentioned before, right? And I think our Attorney General is doing a fantastic job, and you see him out there, and he's, that's the one thing when this whole democracy has been stress test, and so far, knock on wood, the judicial system is holding up the best, right? I mean, the Supreme Court, that's another conversation, but just think, so there's been some success there. And then we have to decide what, when there's things that we can't stop in terms of federal cuts, where to step in, right? Because we can't, I mean, you're right that we we send billions more as a state to the federal government than we get back. So it's particularly frustrating, egregious, whatever words you want to use, infuriating that now we're getting cuts, right? When we're already a donor state. We can't afford, some people, by the way, said, let's not pay the federal taxes, right? We've heard that, and we're like, well, we can't protect you from the IRS if you decide not to pay your federal. So I'm not suggesting that, But at the beginning of the evening, I mentioned the student loan program. So there's like a targeted way that we can fight back and protect our teachers and nurses. The fund that we created when it comes to SNAP, because, and President Trump eliminated all the people who administer the low-income heating assistance program in the federal government. So that's another one. Like, we're not going to stand by and let people freeze to death in Connecticut, right? But where we run into a challenge is an example. So higher ed, UConn and our state university system has lost hundreds of millions of dollars of federal grants, many of them impounded illegally. And so do we ask Connecticut taxpayers, right, to replace that? That's a tough call. I mean, I'd love your feedback, because you could argue absolutely for the economy, Jack's Labs, like all the ancillary benefits, right? 100%. However, how much can you afford to compensate, right, to backfill what Trump has done to the state? And that's where we want to that's where we're trying to find that balance.
Right.
you know?
I've heard it mentioned, and I don't know how feasible it is, escrow accounts, that the states would kind of garnish some of the federal money and hold it in an escrow account, saying, you know, you promised us X amount of money for SNAP, well, we're going to hold it, and we'll release it. Just throwing ideas against the wall to see what sticks. But something to consider. Thank you.
Thank you, Libby. Courtney, you're up. Welcome, Courtney.
Good evening to you all. First, I want to echo what Darlene said most recently. Tammy raised it. I feel so fortunate to have you as our delegation here in West Hartford. I feel fortunate West Hartford has a progressive mayor and town council, but you're the best, and I think we're always, I feel you're progressive and doing what we need to have you doing. And Tammy, we're going to miss you, but thank you for your time. Affordability, that's what I here to talk about too. We are one of, as I think you know, as I mentioned before, we are one of the wealthiest states and the wealthiest country in the world, and we have one of the highest income disparities between our wealthy top 1% and 5% and a large majority of our population who are struggling to survive. Hartford Current reported that in September, the United Way of Connecticut released a report which stated, quote, a record high 581,000 Connecticut households, about 40% of our population, couldn't afford a basic, quote, survival budget in 2023. That was the last. And I just think that's atrocious, that we are one of the wealthiest states in the country, and we have over 10,000 households who earn multiple millions of dollars a year. We have 14 or 15 billionaires. We've got to take care of our neighbors, these 580,000 people, and we can. We're wealthy enough to do that. I mean, you all are the people who are carrying the ball. I understand that the governor has consistently said he would veto any marginal increase in the tax rate for our wealthiest citizens. Do you believe that people who earn multiple millions of dollars a year are going to miss, let's say, $25,000 because that's a fractional share more, or $10,000? They're not going to miss it, and our neighbors need it. And I just think it's to live in a state where we can't make sure every neighbor in need of kindness and concrete acts of kindness is taken care of. So maybe this is the same message that I gave the last time we were together. I was at the Capitol yesterday, just before the governor spoke to you, with a small group of people called Husky for Immigrants. And immigrants are our neighbors too, and we need to take care of them. And this small group was outside the chamber handing out or being present. And I just think, again, we can afford to be kind and help concrete acts of kindness. So I guess my question is, can we keep on pushing? I would like to, if the governor is the obstacle at the end of the tunnel, what can we do? That's my question. Thank you.
Courtney, thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I wish you were at the Capitol every day with us, this message. Yes, we have to keep this up, as you said, because at the heart of it, we can't take care of our neighbors. We can't make these investments in our state unless we look so closely at our tax code. I will say, we, in the Finance Committee last year, we did take a substantial step forward, at least in my time in the legislature, that we actually got out of the Finance Committee an increase in capital gains tax, and also the child tax credit that I mentioned earlier to really provide relief. And I say those things because, the push is really critical because it keeps up the pressure, not just on us as legislators, but on the governor, and him really facing reality of what folks who are living in Connecticut are facing on a daily basis and where the real momentum is. And I will tell you, in the Finance Committee and working with many of my House colleagues, we're putting in bills not just around a capital gains increase, but looking at what we can do to increase the top income tax bracket, what we can do around corporate accountability. So, for instance, if a corporation of a certain size is, and you all will know where this is headed once I start naming who the corporations could be, of a certain size is paying their employees a minimum wage. And in that case, we pick up the tab as a state because they're taking advantage of state benefits, that corporation would need to contribute to the state in some way, basically being taxed for not paying their employees and the state having to pick up the bill of making sure that those people can make ends meet. Those are just a couple of the items that I know will be heard in front of the Finance Committee this year. And so I hope you and many others who care about this issue will be there when we have public hearings, because the goal, again, is to make sure we pass something out of the Finance Committee so it can be a part of the budget negotiations and continue as a part of the dialogue to push the governor. So I wanted to make sure you had those most recent updates and that everyone did, because it's really pivotal.
It's heartwarming just to hear your energy, Kate.
Oh, yes, we won't give up on that.
Hi, Courtney, and everyone else. So everything you said, Courtney, is right? We need to, I believe, tax those 1%ers, right? Those in the highest tax bracket. So we're starting up there with them, right? Those the wealthiest, the wealth gap. We're attacking that, but we really also need to think about the educational gap, the gap in education, right? It's one thing to provide people with money, but we need to teach people how to make money, how to keep their money. So we need to look at the educational cost system, better educate our students, right? Have better schools throughout. West Hartford, we're blessed here to have some of the best schools in the state of Connecticut. But I'll tell you, that's not how it is everywhere throughout this state. And then, so once we better educate our scholars, financial literacy, how to invest your money, how to take care of your money. There's so many adults who are financially illiterate, and you wouldn't know it, but you would know it by maybe the only way you would know is where they live, how they shop, and how they move, right? So I think it's a two-pronged approach to that system. Again, like a lot of these things, education is the key, but I think that is something we need to look at as well.
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
If you'll indulge me, I would love to ask all of you a question, maybe like a hands up kind of thing. Yeah. So the governor proposed, some of you may have read about this, a rebate, right? It's like a one-time rebate. It's $200 for, roughly, it's basically $200 for individuals, right? $400 for a family. I think it goes up to 400,000?
400,000.
400,000 families, right? Making up to 400,000. So $200, $400. The idea is that affordability is a big issue. He is afraid, I think, I'm kind of paraphrasing accurately, that he doesn't want to do any permanent change in terms of, this would cost $500 million, right? It costs the state $500 million. So, because, the recession's going to come in 2 years or who knows when, right? But it's some case. So he's worried about something, doing something that goes every single year, but he wants to provide some kind of rebate. He wants all of us to approve that. So certainly that could be enticing in some ways. At the same time, we hear, cuts, right, that are going to impact families, et cetera. Anyways, I'm just wondering, because it's tricky, and you could argue either side, et cetera. So, if you'll indulge me, how many people support the rebate? So 200 individual or 400 versus I guess the say no would be.
What are the options?
Yeah.
Well, okay, that 500 million, we could, put it into the rainy day fund, which is capped at 18%, continue to pay off debt, put it into social services, right? Things that we talked about, the needs. I'm just wondering, how many think, yes, do the $400, affordability is a big issue, do that and still try to do as much as we can, or don't do it and put it into any number of things. Is that fair?
Free meal for lunch.
Any number, yeah, but it's not, I can't do multiple choice.
Or
so
more
that- yeah.
targeted tech.
All right, so how many want the $400 for family? How many think that's a good idea? A good plan? Yeah, okay, that's good. And does everybody else kind of oppose to think, spend the money on something else? Is that, okay. I appreciate your indulgence. Sure, of course.
$200 to me is not going to make a large difference
Right.
in my.
Right.
There will be people who will make a difference, and we support that. So maybe drop that top end a little bit.
Right, have it more targeted.
Even if it helps somebody right now, it's also a Band-Aid.
Correct.
Right? Like,
Correct.
it's, we're just buying, we're kicking the can one.
Correct.
Yeah, okay.
Down the road, and that means we're not making a smart choice. We're not addressing the bigger issues. The bigger issues is gonna take some pain to address.
Yeah.
Everybody knows it's gonna take pain to address, because we're in a place where we have to take pain.
Yeah.
That's what this administration has kind of put on us, shown us where the pain is. But if we wanna be perpetuating as a state, sustainable as a state, and to make sure all of our citizens have equal access to the things they need and the services required, it doesn't happen with $200 rebate.
No.
That's basically buying an election or buying some time, but it doesn't actually fix the problem. I mean, if it puts food in your mouth, that's a major problem that we should be addressing by putting food in your mouth, not handing out $200. That's the kind of thing that I feel like this is.
Yeah.
Up.
Just 1 second. Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, can we take a vote on who thinks it should go towards social programs?
Sure. Let's figure it out right now.
Absolutely. Let's do that. Instead of you said you want to vote at social programs?
For social programs instead of the $200.
The social safety net.
Blanket $200, focus on the people who actually need that money. Sure.
Yeah.
Provide the social services that are necessary.
Does that include healthcare?
Is that a broad array of services?
Broad array.
Yeah, I mean, I guess you could include education, you could include, right? I mean, it could, what that,
Heating assistance.
sure, absolutely, absolutely. No, this is so valuable, I don't know, I mean, to you all, but to like, really, really what this is about, it's like, this is great.
As a retired tax professional, I recall in the late 80s, early 90s, there was another governor who proposed this, and perhaps there are some papers remaining in the governor's desk that he found said, gee, this would be a great idea.
Right.
That was a $50.
We have so many
That was
other
only
needs.
50,
And then you gotta pay taxes on the 50, right? So you got like $37 net, Yeah.
Yeah, so like, I mean, it's math, right? It's like similar to what Matt said, like if someone said like, we have $500 million, we're gonna like hire more para-educators to go into classrooms because we realize that teachers like really need more support. I'd be like, absolutely, because again, like $200 for most people of a certain income is like, it's helpful, but it's not gonna make or break. And so I just think that there's so many things right now that are so needed that I would happily have instead of the $200, and I have to believe a lot of people in this town would feel that way.
I mean, I think you literally look at Maslow's hierarchy and say, what boxes have we checked?
Right.
Is everybody's human body taken care of? We haven't even checked we don't have like access to food, clean water, clean air, like we haven't even checked the first box on the hierarchy of needs. In which case, $200 is basically a short-term payoff. I'd rather go box by, I'd rather you tax, pardon my French, tax the shit out of me and let me pay for basic needs for everybody else, because I'm more than happy to do that, than not, see everybody's first needs covered.
Thanks, Derek. We're going to add this as an addition to every town hall. I want to be mindful of our questions that we still have from Robin. Welcome, Robin.
Hi, I want to thank you all for the public service that you perform here in the state of Connecticut. My name is Robin Kipnis, and I'm a West Hartford resident, of course, and also a member of an organization formed mainly in West Hartford called the Grassroots Jewish Women. And I'm here to talk about and to ask for your support about a bill that we worked on last year. It's an anti-Semitism working group bill. And we worked very hard on getting language in that bill to get the right kind of expertise into the working group, so that, as you know, as a Jew, we've experienced a lot of increase in hatred and racism in the last few years or centuries, however you want to look at it. And one of the things that we see is that addressing some of these issues, anti-Semitism, in the K through 12 curriculum would go a long way to easing the problem long term. So this bill, again, which is part of the omnibus education bill that passed the House last year but not the Senate, is going to come up again, and that we really urge your support for that bill. Thank you.
I am totally with you, and I didn't mean to be rude, but I was looking, we've been just started to get emails because there's a group that's mobilizing against it, and they seem to call anti-Semitism a political idea. And I responded to them, like, is actually kind of saying, is that really what you're referring to? I mean, the answer to all hate is education, right? And it's not just anti-Semitism. We see increase of hate all across the board, and I think we should fight all hate. And so the task force that you mentioned, we're pushing for it. Hope it can be in special session. We're going to be in February 25th. And so there is a fierce lobbying effort right now, and it's inexplicable to me how people could, and add another task force against Islamophobia, 100% agreed with. But yeah, I'm totally with you, and I hope that we vote on it February 25th.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, of course.
Thank you, Robin. And Deborah? Okay, thanks, Deborah. Is there anyone else who wasn't originally on the list that has a question or comment? If so, you can raise your hand and come up, please.
My name is Richard Rothstein. I live on Newington Road in West Hartford. My son lives in a group home on Asylum Avenue in West Hartford. Our family is one of the lucky ones. My son has profound autism, was placed because of medical issues when he was age 8. I have worked within the DDS system and with the legislature for the last 34 years to try to make what's been available to my son available to all who need it. Today in West Hartford and throughout the state, there are many individuals who cannot get day or residential services that are appropriate for their son. And as Darlene mentioned, many have been rejected time and time again. There are, the nonprofit community is not required to take on anyone that they don't feel competent to take on. But with nonprofit rate improvements, with perhaps some nudging it towards improvement in training and improving the quality of staff, perhaps more agencies. My son's agency has been doing this for the entire 75 years they've been in existence. There are others like that, but most of them are they're very focused on the bottom line and risk. I would hope that that will be considered budget time. I know you've been very helpful to the nonprofits in recent years, particularly DDS providers, but the need is still there. And I think Jillian said they're not being paid a fair wage, livable wage. I'd also like to thank you for your work last year. Jillian helped lead it, but all of you voted for it are our bill that the Profound Autism Alliance put together with the Human Services Committee and began to address two issues. One issue is the problem with abuse and neglect cases of individuals in DDS. Several of us have testified for that legislation, and before and after, I continue to hear from other families who have had horrific stories. And this applies not only in the private sector, but including the public homes as well. The other issue that was, there was a compromise language included, was to help us determine how many people there are like Spencer in the DDS system. Ideally, we'd like to know how many there are in the pipeline. There has been an explosion of autism cases in the world, including in Connecticut. And statistically, 26.7% of people with autism have profound autism. That means they have intellectual disability and will require 24/7 care the rest of their lives. The legislation has not been successful in getting OPM to get that information for us from OPM, from DDS. But I hope that Human Services can help us get that information so that we can plan for the future and know what we're dealing with. We have studies for everything, how many schools we need, how many roads, how many miles of highway we need. But we don't have this information, and we can't begin to serve that unserved population until we know that. Thank you.
Thank you. I just would like to say, I mean, I agree. It's really difficult to plan if you don't have the numbers. And I remember we talked about that the last time we were here. And so this is something I would love to continue to work on. It seems to me very basic. I don't understand why this is so difficult to get. But
Well, the compromise language funded a project that has been grant funded by CMS, and the condition of the study is that it be done the same way as it was done in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. Now, Andy and I have looked at that study. It doesn't tell us what we need to know. We think there are easier ways to get it. The study in Pennsylvania is attempting to look at the entire spectrum of autism, pretty much from childhood through senior years. We need to know about those that have intellectual disability and autism. And DDS has been asked directly for it by members of our group, and they have declined to provide it. So I know OPM, agencies respond to OPM, and OPM responds to legislators, and hopefully a push from the governor's office. So whatever you could do to help would be great. So I'll be at the Capitol a couple of times this week. Have a Heart Day is Friday. You're all invited. Jillian is the sponsor this year. So we look forward to seeing you all then. And I'll also be there on Wednesday for a meeting of the Council on Developmental Services. Human Services has invited them in to provide input, and I'm no longer a member of that council, but we can attend and talk with you all afterwards that are on Human Services.
okay. Yes, I would really like to get the specific criteria that you're seeking. I'd be really interested in that. Yes, Andy.
Thank you.
Andy Selinger.
Thanks,
I live
Andy.
on 20 Mohegan Drive in West Hartford. And I just want to address what I feel is, or make a suggestion as far as the education system to improve the quality of life for individuals on the spectrum and other disabilities. Massachusetts has a model, and we've, as a state, have been taking advantage of the services with out-of-district placements in Massachusetts for years at great cost. And in my son's case, to the tune of $300,000 a year for him to be in Massachusetts for 10 years, added up. And then to come back to Connecticut, to fall off a cliff, to be assaulted in a day program and have been taken back many, many steps for all the efforts and he was basically ready for the world when he left the school in Massachusetts and came back and we just watched him go downhill. But another part of my point is that we should be looking at trying to establish the same models as, like, for example, the New England Center for Children, where they have a connection with Simmons College and they provide education to get providers with the knowledge of applied behavioral analysis, which is so desperately needed. Of course, that ties into our reimbursement rates as well. We need to be equal with our surrounding states to be able to attract qualified individuals. But this is a dream, a model that shouldn't just be in Massachusetts. Why can't we do this in Connecticut? Thank you.
Okay, last one, and then we will wrap up. So thank you.
I'm Tammy Sellinger, and I'm on Mohegan Drive in West Hartford. And my son is the one he was just talking about also. And we have a daughter and a son that are in the system. They both have Fragile X syndrome and autism they've been diagnosed with. And I feel that people realize that they know autism is a spectrum, but a lot of people say, oh yeah, I know somebody with autism, I work with him, or this, that. People don't realize quite the extent of the spectrum. My son is a 2-to-1 in the community. He needs 24/7 care. He doesn't brush his teeth by himself. He doesn't shower by himself. He needs help with absolutely everything. We're fortunate he can feed himself. They cut it into it has to be cut into little pieces, but he can use the fork and he feeds himself. He can do a lot of things and he knows a lot. So like when he's left out of things, because there isn't a second person, he sees his housemates, he's in a group home, he sees his housemates going out because they're just 1-to-1s or 2 people to 1, but he can't get out. And he's been in that situation for so long. He has his day program with 2 staff, and then he comes back. He comes back on Friday. He doesn't get out again until the next Monday morning. Maybe they'll try, but it's been so long that now they've started every now and then offering him to go out. He refuses. And if he does get in the car, he won't get out of the car when they get somewhere in an evening. He's 32 years old and he's like a little child. They're like, okay, well, he doesn't go to bed early. That's the one thing he just refuses to. He goes to bed around midnight every night. But besides that, he's like a little child, and people look at it and they treat it that way. And again, due to lack of the education and the ability, there's fear. Good-hearted people work with my kids, but there's fear there because they just don't know. And they don't, as much as the agencies train them, it's still, they're not ready for that. They don't get paid to do it. And a lot of them have 2 or 3 jobs. How can they be awake enough to even be doing it and have patience? So I just hope that you guys can help with all these things. And people need to realize that there's a whole gamut of people out there that deserve more. They're not just, oh, well, they're so affected they don't know the difference. But they do in their own way. They maybe don't come out and say, hey, why is he going out and I'm not? My son's limited verbally. He can ask for his juice. He can ask for food. He doesn't say, I want to go to mom and dad's house. He'll say, mom and dad, and he'll say haircut because he gets a haircut at home. So he uses that as his way of saying, I want to come home. So anything more you can do to help us, you've helped us so much over the years, and feel very fortunate about that, but any more was really appreciated. Thanks.
We did? Oh, sorry, missed you. Please.
I didn't sign up.
Oh,
Came
okay,
late.
okay, welcome.
My name is Art Spivak. I live in West Hartford. I have a question. It seems like we need money. We need money to fund a lot of these projects. When I finished driver ed, I think at Conard, I wanted to buy a car. I went to work. I bought the car. My question is, I want to know when, I also respect what you people are doing. I respect what everybody said. My question is, when was the last time you went over the George Washington Bridge? When was the last time you went to Newport? When was the last time you went on the Mass Pike? When was the last time you went to Albany, New York? I won't mention the 5-letter word. I won't mention it, but we're a free ride, and you people need money. I'm a salesman still on the road, and I pay a lot for tolls. To me, it's a mystery. Anyhow, thank you.
When I came in through a special, it was 2019, and that was what everyone was talking about. There were signs everywhere and people yelling no tolls, and and it was, for someone who has lived in other places, it was perplexing to me because we are a pass-through state. Everyone around us has it. It was a big deal, and then COVID, and so it has not come back. I think that was kind of probably on purpose, but yes.
Are the people that live in Fairfield County.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know what houses sell for in Fairfield County?
Yes.
And there is a way of adjusting the toll.
That's right.
Yeah.
For, I had, what do you call it, a toll thing since it started in New York. I actually pay New York.
Right.
So when
I paid New Jersey.
George Washington Bridge, or I go to Kingston, New York, I pay the rate that a person who lives in the state. I mean, it's legal in the sense that you could apply to any state. You could have a Massachusetts could respond to it.
Mm-hmm.
But I thought I'd bring up that 5-letter word.
Thank you. Thank you. Appreciate it. Thank you, everyone. I will just say thank you. And I know we all have our information over there. Don't be strangers, but I just wanted to offer a chance for everyone here in the delegation, if you have a final word or final comment or something we didn't cover that you want to make sure you wrap up on.
Yes, I'd like to share with everyone that one of my goals before the end of this session is to create a task force to address the affordable energy. Another one is that I put in a proposal where at the moment, right now, a single person retired that's making that their pension combined with the Social Security is 75,000 or less, they're exempt from state tax, right? So my proposal is to raise that cap, and I know it's going to have to come with a fiscal note, finance. And I want to raise it to $150,000 because at this moment, and we all know, Connecticut is not as affordable as it should be. And we're losing a lot of Connecticut residents who are moving down south to South Carolina, North Carolina, Florida. My hope in doing this is to keep those same residents here in Connecticut, where now they can look at it and say, wait a minute, okay, now I have a better deal. Why would I move to Florida when I'm exempt from the state tax up to that $150,000? So those are the two main things I'm really trying to focus on. Of course, more importantly, is the affordability with energy here in Connecticut. And thank you so much for having me.
I would just add that I'm just grateful for all of you, and I know that sounds like pandering, but no, really, I mean, because you see all the yelling and how just messy, politics is, especially nationally, and I love this town, and just for us to be able to come together as a community and listen to your priorities, and maybe we don't always agree on everything, but it's civil, and I learned so much from this, and I'm just grateful for all of you, grateful to have the ability to serve you, and look forward to doing some good stuff this session. And as always, reach out, call me, email me, and I promise I'll get right back to you. Thank you.
I just want to say good night. It's good to see you all. I'm sure you want to stand up and move around. Thank you for coming, and I've taken my notes, and I really appreciate your attendance this evening. Thank you.
I as well. It's late. Again, just reach out to us, anything you need. And we appreciate you coming out. It's really cold, right? Cold and dark. But it says a lot that you guys are coming out and supporting us. It means a lot to us, and it makes us want to fight for you even more. So thank you.